What up, everybody? It's your boy, DFS Up North, aka Josh Thomas, and we are here today talking about NFL Showdown and how to optimize your lineups to win single game contests in the 2021 NFL season. I can't believe it. We are here. It is the 2021 NFL season. And we are back talking about Showdown, my favorite type of contest structure for NFL and for really just for DFS in general. And I'm here today with a basic guide telling you how to optimize your lineups to win single game contests using the information that we've gleaned at DFS Army over the last couple of years and help to find some big winners. So we've tracked over 240 single game contests over the last 2 years to help us understand the optimal strategy for lineup construction on both Draftkings and Fanduel. There's more to these single game contests than just picking the best players, especially on sites like DraftKings, which we are going to focus on today. And now I know there are tons of other people in the industry who've done very similar things, but I feel like we have a few inside tips and things that can really help you get there and win. And I mean, look at this, right? Like just crushing first place lineups, right? Not only do we have the information about how to build these lineups, whether you're maybe building on your own, but if you are optimizing, the DFS Army Showdown Optimizer is the best in the business. There is more things that you can do. You can set rules. You can do all sorts of things. We're not talking about the optimizer necessarily today, but that's going to be in a future video. But I mean, you want to win some game-changing money? Here we go. This is how you do it. We are getting firsts, like literally in every single contest through the year. So it's something that I'm pretty excited about. So if you want to join us at DFS Army, where we turn average Joes into DFS pros, we got a couple of different options, right? For NFL, you can do the weekly, $9.99, monthly, $35, but really the best deal is that season pass at $199. That's and 50% off with the code preseason, right? But if you want access to everything, you want to hear about me and PGA, you want to do the MLB, the NBA, all that stuff, VIP is where it's at. That monthly $69.99 is the best deal in DFS. Code Up North gets you 10% off of each of these. Not only is it just the best deal, I really think that we are putting out the best content week after week after week, and it shows. So, just to give you guys kind of a hint, like we're talking about Showdown today, but a typical NFL season, right? You're going to get pods for the Monday night game, the Thursday night game, the Sunday night game. You're going to get cheat sheets. Geek's going to break down the full slate. I'm doing something new this year. I'm going to be breaking down the 10 best plays under 10% ownership, trying to find you that leverage in GPP. Keg's going to have the cash game stuff. So we'll have all those cheat sheets. We'll have the wide receiver versus cornerback charts. Just the game, the matchup breakdowns, which I love. So you are getting way more than $69 worth of information every single month, and we break it all down for you. And not only do we just break it down for you, but similar to this video, we are going to teach you the tools so that you can be successful. Do I want you to be here forever? Yeah, I love chopping it up with the guys in the Discord and things like that. But my goal here as a coach at DFS Army is to teach you to be the best DFS player that you can be. For Showdown, that's where I think I strive. It's awesome. Like we do these weekly podcasts where it's me, Kevin, or Geek, who's the who obviously is the CEO of DFS Army, and then Bobby Clinks, man. Bobby Clinks is a Showdown genius. And I think I do a good job of kind of putting all that information into one. And today we're going to give you a little tutorial about how these Showdowns work and some of the rules and things that you can look at when you're building your lineups to help you have success in the 2021 NFL season. I still can't get over that we are already back to NFL. Like, it is crazy. I'm a golf junkie. You don't know me. I'm a golf junkie, and we are wrapping up this week. We're not wrapping up. We're in the playoffs already. Ryder Cup's coming, things like that. But my focus now in the next couple of weeks is really going to start to shift from how to get a little white ball into a hole into how to get the most points in my DFS contests, and primarily in Showdown. So how do these Showdown contests work, right? You get 6 roster spots and a $50,000 salary. We're talking about DraftKings today, all right? DraftKings is, I don't want to say it's for the more skilled player, but there's more variations of what can win on DraftKings, right? And I think when you have to work through more things on a site like DraftKings, because the salary multiplier, it makes it a little bit more difficult to win, but also gives you an edge if you are willing to put in the time and effort. Whereas on FanDuel, really you're just trying to find the 6 guys who are going to score the most points. And that's not necessarily what we're doing here on DraftKings. We'll talk a little bit more on that in a bit. But you get 6 roster spots, $50,000 salary. And the big kicker, like I said, on DraftKings is the captain spot. So in this spot, whatever player you choose gets 1.5x points, means that 1.5x whatever they get for points. So they get 10 points. Just in general, if they are in the captain spot, they're going to get 15. But that also means that they have 1.5x salary. So if you put a player in there who's $10,000, that's going to be 1.5x salary. So now you're taking up 15,000 of your salary cap just in that captain spot, and that is really the driver for everything that we do and a lot of the decisions that we're going to have to make with our showdown lineups. Again, QB, running back, tight end, wide receiver, kicker, defense, just like a normal slate. But again, in showdown, we're talking about a 1 game sample size. So you get 6 spots in your lineups, right? Who shows up the most, right? So what we've done again is we've pulled the top 3 scoring lineups from over 240 contests over the last 2 years. It's a crazy number. When we first started doing this 2 years ago, it was like, okay, we have this small sample size. Maybe this works, or maybe we need to do, defense in the captain spot. But now we have a big enough sample size that we're looking at this and saying, okay, this is kind of what you need to do to have a successful lineup. And as people are kind of picking up on that, now we have to sort of change as we go, right? But that's a little bit more meta and out there. But what positions show up the most in these lineups, right? You got 6 spots. Wide receiver is king, all right? Winning lineups have just under 2 wide receivers per lineup. The reason being is that they are typically priced a little bit cheaper than things like QBs and running backs. So a number 1 QB like a Patrick Mahomes is going to be a $15,000 player without even, the 1.5x salary. Whereas, a wide receiver like a Mecole Hardman might be $4,000, right? So you're able to, get a lot of bang for your buck by getting wide receivers in your lineups. And that's why on average winning lineups have about 2 wide receivers per lineup. And as we're going to find out in a little bit, a lot of times they're in the captain spot. QBs and RBs are next. Typically, you have about 1.2 QBs and 1.5 running backs. And what this tells me is that despite the fact that QBs typically are projected for the most points week in and week out, on average, 1.2 is pretty low. So on average, we're looking at almost just 1 QB in winning lineups. So a lot of times we try to force 2 quarterbacks into our lineups in showdown, and we don't really need to. And then running backs, 1.5. So, kind of right in the middle. Tight ends, defense, and kickers are last. Tight end shows up the most, and then kickers and defense at about 0.4 per lineup. They do show up, and we're going to get into a little bit of when we sort of see these guys show up. So an average lineup, you're looking at 2 wide receivers, 1 QB, 1 running back, and then some combination of a tight end and a defense and a kicker on those last 2 spots. All right, this is the big question. Who do we pick for captain? How do we pick a captain? There's a lot that goes into this. I'm going to try to keep this as simple as possible. We will dive in more into this in our cheat sheets and things like that, where I'm giving you literally the 6 or 7 guys or 5 or 4 or 3 guys that I'm playing in the captain spot that week for my, whether it's 20 max, 150 max, whatever it is. But it's there's a lot that goes into it. So the salary is probably the biggest factor here. All right. A lot of times, we think like, okay, I need to play just for example, a Patrick Mahomes, right? I want Patrick Mahomes. He's going to be the highest scoring guy in the game. Well, the highest scoring guy in the game on DraftKings doesn't necessarily end up as the nuts captain play. All right. Because of what you can do for the rest of your lineup if you play a little bit cheaper guy in there. The average captain salary is about $12,828. And that's not a lot, right? That's the salary with the 1.5x, right? So if we look at the, I'm just pulling it up here, the slate for the Thursday night game, we got the Tampa Bay versus the Dallas Cowboys. We have, let's look at the salaries here. So we're looking at, in the captain, Tom Brady 16.8, right? Dak Prescott 15.6. Zeke Elliott 14.4. So if we're going to go down to that 12,828, we're looking at somebody like a Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, again, wide receivers. All right. So wide receiver is, in 2019, wide receiver showed up the most often in the captain spot. In 2020, it actually showed up that running backs occurred in the captain spot a little bit more often, and we actually saw that captain salary go up a little bit. So the answer is that you typically want to have a player who's a little bit lower in salary. All right. And what player is that? Well, we can look at a couple of things. So if we look over here, we can see that does the captain need to score the most points? No. Typically, we see about an RB at about 34% of the time is the most often captain. Wide receivers 31, QB is 22%. Anything after that, you don't need to play. All right. You can. I mean, there's going to be games when the defense captain is the nuts play. There is going to be games when the kicker captain, that's like a less than 1% chance, but the tight end captain is going to be the nuts play. But we're talking about combined, we're talking 10, 15% of the time. I would rather put all of my marbles in it happening the other 85% of the time, right? With running backs, wide receivers, and QB. So I very, very rarely play a tight end there. And of these guys, can we look at Vegas and have that help us? And the short answer to that is yes, we can. So favorite wide receivers, 21% of the time. Favorite running backs, 18% of the time. Favorite QBs, 16, and then dog RBs are 14. So really, if you were going to build showdown lineups for the entire year and you only played favorite wide receivers and favorite RBs, you're covering about 65% of the captain points, right? And then just playing the favorites, right? You're looking at another 39. Like, you're going to have a winning season just focusing on those two spots. All right. So again, there's a lot that goes into this, but that's why you have people like me here, right? Breaking it down and then explaining my thought process in our cheat sheets at DFS Army. Again, if you are not a DFS Army VIP, you can use that code below. 10% off VIP membership if you use the code up north. So let's say we pick a captain, right? Let's say I'm just going to bring up like I said, let's say I pick up Chris Godwin, right? He kind of fits in that mold of, it's 12,900. Do I need to correlate him with player on his team or the other team? And the answer is that yes, right? So wide receiver without the QB only happens about 7% of the time. So typically we don't want to play a wide receiver without his quarterback. So if I've got Chris Godwin in there, I want to play Tom Brady in there. All right. Running back without their QB. Now that happens a little bit more often. So if I was going to play, Ron Jones or somebody like that in there, I don't necessarily need a Tom Brady. But if they're a pass catching back, you do want to. Without the QB happens about 16% of the time. With QB happens about 18% of the time. QB with 0 pass catchers happens 0% of the time. Even a Lamar Jackson. In Lamar Jackson's showdown contests, he has always had a pass catcher with him. And that can include a running back, right? But there has always been a pass catcher with him when he's been going off. So yeah, we absolutely need to correlate our captains. And sometimes it makes sense to correlate them with the other team, right? So if you think that this is going to be a shootout, right, then you need to play if I was going to play, Chris Jones, or not Chris Godwin, and Tom Brady, I want to bring back a shootout the other way. Maybe I'm looking at a CeeDee Lamb, somebody like that. Maybe I think that they're going to run the ball a ton because I don't necessarily want to have 2 quarterbacks in there, right? And here's the deal. If Godwin and Brady go off, Dak could have a good game, but at his price, he might not end up in the nuts. And that's something that you got to think about sometimes. So how do we structure our lineups? The most common way. Back on correlations before I move on here. With correlations, there are a ton more. And we actually have those all breaking down, but I can't give that shit out for free here, people. Are you kidding me? I can't give out all the correlations that we have and what works and what doesn't work. That's something that you got to sign up for, right? So you can then get access to all that showdown analysis if you become a DFS Army VIP. Lineup structure. How many players from each team should you have? Most common is 4-2, about 40% of the time. Typically, we see a 4-2 stack in higher spreads, and typically what we see is that 4-2 is favored and dogs, right? So 4 favored players according to Vegas and 2 dogs. Obviously, more often we see that the 4 players in a 4-2 stack are on the winning team. We know that the favorites don't always win, but typically if I'm going to build a lineup, I most of the time, unless I have a really strong feeling otherwise, I want to have 4 favorite players and 2 dogs, right? A safer approach is like a 3-3 stack. That means that you'd have typically, obviously 3 of 3. This is about 34% of the time. It is more common in lower total games. So games that we see go under 45 for a total, we see more of a 3-3 stack, and that's just because the ball is spread out a little bit more. We don't see like these big high scoring games. 5-1 stack is rarer 25% of the time. To be honest, I very rarely make a 5-1 stack. 25% of the time, I'm only looking at 5-1 is when there's a big 7, 8, 9, 10 point spread. If we see a big spread like that, but again, you're playing the percentages here. 75% of the time we see a 4-2 or a 3-3 work. So I want at least 75% of my lineups with a 4-2 or a 3-3. A 5-1, obviously we can force them in, or you can, with the optimizer, it's going to kick you them. But I try to stay right in this range because, again, I'm just trying to play my probabilities here. Said it a minute ago. Can you have no QB? Should you build a lineup with no QB? So what we found is that 89% of the lineups have at least 1 QB. 11% have 0 QB. Again, Showdown is all about playing to your percentages. Even if you're building 150 lineups, 150 seems like a really, really big number, and I can cover all the. No, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of ways that you can do this. So if 89% of lineups have at least 1 QB, that means that 100% of my lineups have 1 QB. If I lose on that 11% of the time, guess what? I've won on 89% of the other times, right? So don't go with no QB. Unless we're dealing with a situation like Denver last year where they had no QB and they had COVID issues, like don't do it. Don't do it. Don't get too cute. All right. Do you need correlation elsewhere, right? So like not just with your captain, but within the rest of your lineup. So the most common stack that occurred in 21% of winning lineups was a QB with 2 pass catchers. All right. But it wasn't that much more common than QB with 3 pass catchers. That occurs the second most times in the winning lineups. That's 19% of the times. So between QB and with 2 and 3 pass catchers, we're talking about 40% of the time that the lineup had a QB with at least 2, maybe 3 pass catchers. 4 doesn't happen that often, so don't even try to do it. But so again, we talk about wide receiver value, and I said that a couple slides ago. Wide receiver is king in Showdown. All right, so you want to stack up your QB again, and typically I only play 1 QB in my lineups because again we're playing the percentages, but I want him with 2 or 3 pass catchers. All right. QB with 2 pass catchers and QB with 1 pass catcher. So meaning that you have a double QB lineup, and then you have a 2 and a 1. That occurs in about 14% of lineups. That's the only way that it really happens. QB with 2 pass catchers and then QB with no pass catchers is pretty rare. Again, we want to correlate our QB with somebody. All right. Here's an interesting one. QB with the opposing defense. So this would be like playing, let's say I've got that Chris Godwin lineup that we were talking about for week 1 with Tom Brady, and then I pull in the Cowboys defense. What? Does it make sense? Yes, it occurs in about 14% of winning lineups. And the reason being is that TB12 throws a pick, -1 point. Cowboys run it back, score 6 points. That's huge for defenses. So I will literally force some lineups in with the opposing defenses, right? Because it makes you unique. Because again, mentally, our brains are saying that doesn't work, but it works 14% of the time, right? So we want to get an opposing defense against our QB sometimes in Showdown, right? It just happens, especially if you have a guy who throws picks, right? If you know that you are Jameis Winston's QB in the Saints, and he's, I am going to be all over whatever defense that he's playing in that Showdown because the odds of them running one back and scoring are pretty good. And typically defenses are obviously going to be priced fairly low, under 5K. So get it in there. That's an awesome GPP strategy that you can employ on DraftKings to give you guys a unique build in the field. Because we're going to talk about telling a story here in a second, but at the end of the day, when you're building Showdown lineups, you're not here to min cash, or at least I ain't, right? we know that there is going to likely be a tie at the top. All right. Whether it's 7 guys or 719 players, there's going to be a tie at the top. Right. And that's going to kick the scores down. So I am trying to win this thing. Like, I ain't trying to min cash. If that's your mentality, and like, you can play Showdown Cash. There is absolutely a viable strategy for Showdown Cash. And we'll get to that, for our DFS Army VIPs. But like, don't build GPP lineups trying to just like, oh, fuck, I hope I cash this. No, baby. We are winning and winning only. Right. So speaking of winning only, if you want to win and win only, then don't play double defense. If you want to lose, play double defense. People get cute all the time. You see these guys, they put the defense in the captain, then another defense in there, so they're getting 25. I don't get it. I don't get the screenshot. People in DFS are too smart now. 2% of the time, players try to play double DST, especially in low total games. It just doesn't happen. Even if the total's like 35, double D does not work unless they both score. That's like essentially the only way that it happens is that you have a 17-10 game and both defenses score. That's the only scenario that this happens in. And that kind of leads me into my next point, that you need to tell a story of how the game is going to go. That is maybe more important than anything that I've talked about tonight. Your lineup should tell a story. All right. So let's go back to that Chris Godwin lineup. I'm gonna build it here on my phone as we go. So I got Godwin, I got TB12. Let's say we're gonna play the Cowboys D. Put the Cowboys D in there. So I got Godwin, Brady. I probably need another pass catcher Gronk's scoring, baby. I mean, it's not the playoffs, but Gronk's gonna score. And then so I got a tight end. I don't want another tight end in there. I don't want 2 QBs. Let's say Zeke's gonna gash up this pretty good defensive line. And then I got 7,900. Let's go Michael Gallup. So basically, here's my lineup. I've got Chris Godwin in the captain spot. I've got the Cowboys D, Tom Brady, Zeke Elliott, Michael Gallup, and Rob Gronkowski. So what story am I telling here? Well, the story that I'm telling is that Godwin's going to have a day. All right. Godwin's going to rack up a bunch of PPR points, which is huge for Showdown. Brady's going to throw a couple of touchdown passes, maybe one to Godwin, one to Dak, or not Dak, Gronk. And then he's going to throw a pick and a pick 6. All right. So my lineup is saying that, yeah, we're going to throw a pick 6. And really what this lineup's probably telling me right now is this is a 3-3, but this lineup's probably saying, especially with Zeke and the Cowboys D in there, is that the Cowboys are going to win. All right. And they're going to do so by running the ball and maybe a long touchdown to Michael Gallup. All right. So my story is that this is like a 28-24 game. Cowboys win. Dak goes or Gallup gets a touchdown. Zeke gets a touchdown. Cowboys D scores a touchdown. Maybe some other scrub falls in the end zone, right? And Godwin has 100 yards and 5 catches and a touchdown, right? And he's the nuts captain and Brady throws a couple of touchdowns and a pick, right? So you have to tell a story of how the game's going to go. Using optimizers, this is difficult, but you can do it by setting rules. All right. You set rules that can help you to sort of tell that story. But you want to almost do it, and we talk about this on the pod a lot, is that you almost want to do it in batches, right? So instead of, I think we get in the mode of, especially in like Major League Baseball and NBA, more so NBA than anything, is that I'm just going to, I'm going to set a couple of rules, change a couple of things. I'm going to click and 150 is done. You really want to set it up for batches in Showdown so that you can tell these stories. Maybe in you're going to build 20 lineups where, I got 0 Zeke. Zeke's not going to do shit. Like, he's going to do nothing. I'm going to get a little 5% Tony Pollard in there, right? Then you can build 20 where I'm building 20 lineups where Zeke is the captain, right? My boy. And then you just put all these lineups together, right? And upload them onto DK. So you got to be able to tell a story. It's a little bit harder to do, like I said, if you're dealing with an optimizer, but there's ways to get around it by setting rules and kind of building in batches. If you're building for single entry, 3 entry, even 20 max, I hand build all 20 for 20 max usually. That's where you can really get into the storytelling. And like I said, you got to tell a story. That's maybe the biggest thing that you can get through here. Get funky. All right. One winning lineup last year. This is crazy. I found this digging through the data the other day. One winning lineup last year had a QB with 0 of his own receivers and 4 receivers from the other team. The other QB was not on that team. It was like shit, like is crazy sometimes. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying that you should go do this, but don't be afraid to get a little bit funky. Bobby Wow won him what, $250,000 last year playing a shit ton of Richie James because we didn't know what the wide receiver situation was going to be in San Francisco, and he just said, I think it's going to be Richie James. Boom. Smashed, right? So don't be afraid to get a little bit funky. It feels like in regular NFL DFS, you can build a cash lineup every week and feel really, really good that you're going to get your money. You're going to double up. You're going to hit that cash line unless something crazy happens. You should be entering lineups in Showdown and being like, and I find myself doing this all the time. What the fuck? Like literally. Because think about it. It's a 1-game sample. Think about like the craziness that happens in Dan Arnold scores 2 TDs, or just insane stuff happens in a single small sample size. So don't be afraid to get a little crazy. All right. And the final thought I have on this is 0 running back is for season long only. You got to have a running back in your lineup. 0 RB only occurs in about 7% of winning lineups. So again, I want at least 1 running back in my lineup, no matter what. Okay. My hope is that this gave you at least a little bit of a primer for Showdown lineups and gets you excited for the 2021 season. We are going to have more, but I can't give that away for free, baby. You got to get with us at DFS Army. Use that code up north that gets you 10% off VIP membership. Follow us Facebook at DFS Army, Twitter at DFS Army, or you can follow me at DFS Up North. Our YouTube is at DFS Army. Follow us on social media. This is just, again, this was 25 minutes. This is the tip, the very, very tip of the iceberg of Showdown information. You want more? You gotta get with us. Be in the Discord, VIP podcasts every week, the cheat sheets, everything that you need to be successful in Showdown. Like these guys back here. Let's go back, right? Like these guys here. You want to do this? You want to get, 4 guys first place? You want to win 32,000 like T-Man, right? Adam, just want to say thank you to the DFS Army. Just signed up for the Optimizer. The first time you used it, this happened. Let's look at this lineup for a sec here. Edwards-Helaire, 40%. Watson. Oh, shit. Look at this. Houston versus KC. Anybody notice who's missing here? Patrick Mahomes. No Mahomes. No Mahomes in the lineup. Like, that's the sort of stuff that we're talking about. Don't be afraid to get a little crazy here, right? He's got Watkins. He's got Edwards-Helaire. Jordan Akins, who I was all over that game. But yeah, like, again, don't be afraid to get a little bit crazy. So follow us on social. Hit me up. If you have comments, questions, let me know. I am willing to help. But again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just to get your tongue wet. Just get you excited about the 2021 season. We got more coming on the way, and I'm looking forward to being a part of it. Thanks, guys. See you soon.